All right, let's get into it.
Well, it's Friday.
It is.
And there's three of us here today.
We do. We have a special guest with us today. In the studio. My longtime lover, Mr. Hollywood Hurd.
Just the thought that you're next to me right now is just almost more than I can handle.
So Hollywood's been a friend of ours for 10 years at least now.
At least, yeah, 2015, I believe.
Almost 10 years.
When I met you, Hollywood, you were directing me.
And it was,
and you were an asshole.
Were you a zombie?
I was a zombie.
That's why I was an asshole.
Yeah. But it was also
It's so funny because, I don't mean to be an asshole. I just mean to be direct. And it just translates directly into asshole.
Now, however, all of the zombies were veterans. So it translated into normalcy.
That's true, right?
Like we were all like, okay, we know what he wants us to do.
Let's
do this.
So that was also pre-Warfighter tobacco.
That was pre-Warfighter.
And where did you guys meet?
We met on the set of Range 15.
Yeah.
Yep.
You were the
second unit director and a producer.
There you go.
Scott came up to me and said, we want to start a cigar company.
So
we don't know anything about it.
Yeah, that was actually the
that was the precursor.
That was the premiere.
Yeah,
because
that's right.
The first time I ever thought of Warfighter was I was talking to Logan Stark when we were filming, and I'm like, "Hey man, I got an idea I want to run past you," and that was the first time I'd ever voiced it out loud that I was thinking about starting a cigar company.
Right.
And then by the next year, we had sat down and shot show between John and Chris and Brian and I, and decided to,
because you guys were still in Nebraska then. Right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. We were trying to figure out how to do a cigar company. And then by the premiere, I think we had our first batch of
those horrible cigars.
Shitty cigars.
Mm-hmm. You know what? They're not bad now.
Really? You have some left?
We have a couple.
Yeah.
But I mean, they got what, 9 years, 8.5 years of age on them now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
they couldn't get worse.
We were proving a concept, and luckily they didn't kick us out of the veteran or cigar space at that time. And
I know. Right?
And we got better.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But
the crazy part,
you got tons of support from the veteran community. I mean,
we did
right out the gate.
It's better to have a shitty cigar downrange than no cigar at all.
That's not the advice I would give.
Okay, maybe not at all, but
yeah. But Hollywood, so Warfighter podcast, right? We obviously we're a veteran podcast, we're a cigar podcast, but I want to hit on your background a little, if you don't mind, because you are also a veteran, and you have this nickname of Hollywood, and
which I didn't know was a nickname until, I mean, if we fast forward the story from when you guys met to 5 or 6 years after that, Hollywood is actually coming out to Vegas for one of the trade shows with us.
Yeah.
Because he's that much into cigars. And so he would come, he'd help with us. He'd bring customers, he'd give information out to people, explain all the different blends and all the different stuff. Very knowledgeable, just from hanging out with us for so long.
Right.
So I was trying to book hotel rooms.
He knew more about cigars than we knew he knew.
And I have to say
that we knew at the time.
I have to say that my cigar knowledge is because of Manny Stamathis, the guy in Atlanta. I was in Atlanta at the time doing movies and stuff. I was in the Air Force from 82 to 94. And then I got into the movie business. And then I eventually moved to Atlanta because that's where all the movies were being made for a while.
Right.
And I met Manny at Scottish Tobacco, and I just sucked up all the knowledge that Manny had because truthfully, there's no way that knew more about cigars than Manny.
Nice.
And I tried to hook Manny up with you guys. I don't know if you guys ever talked to him, but that's how I got my cigar knowledge, was from Manny.
Right.
And then you guys took off, and I kind of became a hanger-arounder and came to the shows with you guys. And, like I said, I met a bunch of cigar stores and stuff in Atlanta. There's like 1,000 there.
Yeah.
And, like John was saying, I eventually started bringing people over to the booth, and, because I believed in Warfighter, and Warfighter is still my go-to cigar every day.
Awesome.
But yeah, I didn't know his real name until I was trying to book his hotel room.
Right.
Because the hotel was like, hey, we need a copy of driver's license for everyone that's staying here. Shh. And so I sent, I won't say it, but I sent Hollywood a text.
I think it's out there now.
No, we'll get to that here in a minute.
It's really not out there.
And we'll get
to that in a minute. So I sent Hollywood a text. I'm like, hey man, I need a copy of your driver's license for the hotel. I'm like, just take a picture, send it, we're good to go. And he's like, cool, no problem. So he sends me his license immediately. I think I don't know if I texted or I called him back, but I was like, dude, whose license is this? Is it yours?
Because he had told us that is actually, I flat out asked him.
Yeah, like this is your real name?
It is legally my name now, because I had it changed and that added to my name. So
Nice.
Because that's what everybody knows me by.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what did you do in the Air Force?
I flew B-1s, B-52s,
Nice.
and which was awesome, and I loved it. And
Did some of the,
I've been flying since I was 16. My uncle, got me my license when I was 16 years old, and since I was a little kid, flying was what I always loved, and so I was really fortunate to be able to do that. And then I hoped to fly when I got out of the military, but it just didn't work out, and so I ended up going into the movie business strictly by serendipity. And then that's how I ended up meeting you guys, because you guys were on the set of Range 15.
right?
So how was getting into the movie business on the film side, like the production side?
This is what I say to
when did you get out of the military?
94.
So from 94 till when did you get in the movie business?
I got into the movie business immediately. I moved back to San Angelo when I got out of the military. A guy I'd gone to college with was the local #1 Tejano DJ. And another buddy of mine, he had a bunch of camera equipment. So we did a Spanish television show called Si Se Puede. We bought time off the cable station there in San Angelo. And we put the same show on 7 nights a week. And then every week we changed the show. We shot Tejano band competition, Tejano band performances, Mexican American Chamber of Commerce, quinceañeros, all this stuff in San Angelo, because 35-40% of the town was Hispanic.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And through that, I met other people in the film business. And I met a guy who we were doing commercials, Spanish commercials, like for the car dealerships. And I met a guy there whose camera broke down. We gave him one of our cameras to shoot. And then he had a job in Dallas. I went to Dallas and I shot this little documentary for him. It was Women of the Men's Club. The Men's Club was a local dance club there, very sophisticated, very fancy. And I did that. I shot that for him. And then while I was there, this movie came to town.
Let's back up a second. This dance club, was it Exotic Dance Club?
It was a men's club.
It was a men's club, yeah. It was
Yeah,
called,
there's like-
it was
there's
called
a-
the Men's Club.
San Antonio has a men's club.
Right.
I found out about because a woman invited me to go with her. And when I got there, I realized the only way she could get in is if a male brought her.
That's right. Women can't.
They can't go in by
can't go
themselves.
by themselves usually. That's all changed now because it's all about the dollar. But in the early days, in the mid 90s, yeah, you had to have a male there with you so you could get in. So you could get in.
Nice.
And after that was over, there was a movie being shot in Dallas. I got on that show as the Best Boy Electric. And then when the movie was over, the crew was from LA. They normally worked on Chicago Hope or some big TV series. And they were like, hey, man, we like you. Why don't you come to LA with us? So I moved to LA and got into the film business. Because if you're going to be in the film business, screw going to Full Sail or any other, film school. Go to Los Angeles or go to New York and get into the film business, because you're going to learn more in 6 months than you are in 2 or 3 years, going to college.
Right.
And
that can probably apply to college across the board in reality.
probably 100%. Yeah.
Except for maybe like being a surgeon or something.
Yeah. No. That's,
Hey, if they'll hire you, your on the job experience is going to be way better than some classroom shit.
All right, buddy, you're up.
scalpel.
You're right, doctor.
So I did that for from 95, 96. I did a couple of documentaries. I went to Egypt for about a year, and then I did a couple of TV shows.
Now let's stop at Egypt. You discovered something in Egypt, I heard recently.
So we were there forever. We were there for like a year, and my buddy Terry Pratt, he and I, you can only shoot so much of scientists doing radar, sonar, and seismic testing. And so after we'd go off on our own, and we were filming at the Sphinx, and he and I went to the causeway, and there's a little passageway underneath, and we went in there and we found this shaft that went down about 100 feet. And he and I, tied ourselves off, and we took our cameras down there, and we found this interesting geographical thing there. And we started filming it, and then we went back and got the scientists and said, hey, this is pretty interesting. they came down with us and ran our sonar testing and found a sarcophagus down there. And then the authorities found out that we were down there and they kicked us out. And like 4 years later, Maury Povich and Dr. Zahi Hawass, who ran the Giza Plateau there at the pyramids, they had this grand reveal on international television of Osiris's tomb. And it was what my buddy Terry and I had found like 4 or 5,
awesome.
6 years earlier. So it was like, wow, that's pretty cool.
Right.
But since then, I'd gone back to LA and I started doing movies and stuff, Volcano, and working as an electrician or a set lighting technician. And then time passed. I eventually moved. I directed America's Most Wanted, Unsolved Mysteries, and a show called Arrest and Trial. And so I got a lot of experience doing that. And then I moved to Atlanta. I got a job on Being Mary Jane. So I moved to Atlanta and I was working in Atlanta. And then I heard that they were doing this movie called Range 15. I friended Ross Patterson, who was the director, on Facebook. I said, and he called me up. I gave him my number and he called me up and said, hey, man, I really want to be involved. And if you don't hire me, I'm going to hunt you down and kill you. And I sent him my resume and I had a good resume. And he's like, well, come on out. So that's how I got involved with the veteran TV business. And
once like from somebody who'd never been in the movie business, right?
Right.
I was on Range 15 and I think you volunteered to help and it kind of turned into, hey, you know what you're doing. You're doing this now, right?
That's what happened.
That's kind of the perspective.
I went to one of the lighting companies that I had been using when I did, movies and stuff. Said, hey, their veterans are doing this movie. Can you give me a truck full of lighting gear? And they're like, yeah, no problem. So they gave us a big lighting grip truck and I brought the gear onto the set. And then, when you're doing a movie, you have a couple of units. And so they needed some other shots done. Like I'd take Matt Best off or I'd take Vincent Vargas off and we do little scenes with them. And so that was second unit. So I directed second unit stuff. And then that's how I met you guys. And then I kept doing movie stuff, in Atlanta. And after meeting Nick Palmisano, on the movie, he'd call me up and I'd come up and help him with his Ranger Up commercials and that kind of stuff. And then in about 2020, Nick started a marketing company called Dieseljack Media. And that's when the pandemic happened. So the pandemic shut down the movie business. So I went up to North Carolina and hung out with Nick. And then once the pandemic was over, I'd still go and do a movie or two a year, but I kind of hung out with Nick and helping him. And that's how I ended up in North Carolina. And now I'm pretty much there all the time, work with Dieseljack Media.
Nice.
And you guys just got done filming something pretty cool, huh?
Yeah, we, about a year and a half ago, Nick wanted to do, a veteran themed show, because in the movie business, if you're a veteran and they do a movie about you, you're either a superhero, you have 16, M16s or MP4s and you're saving the world, or
every scene is a Medal of Honor.
That's right. That's right. Or you're so fucked up you can't function in life.
Right.
Can I say fuck here?
Oh, you say whatever
Okay.
you want.
You're so fucked up. You have PTSD so bad that you're a total, you can't even be a participant in humanity.
Right.
And, Nick's like, well, not all veterans are like that.
Right.
So we started writing the show. Nick did most of the writing, and then Dan Mercer, who ends up starring as Joe. We would take his scripts and we'd get together and we'd, finagle this and fix that. And so we came out with this TV series called Office Joe. And it's about an infantryman that leaves the Army, goes to work at a civilian marketing company in North Carolina. So do we have the trailer that we have? Can we show that now? Is that possible?
We probably can.
We do. I will pull that up right now.
And so, Nick really wanted to show that veterans aren't as fucked up as everybody thinks they are. So this is the opening scene.
The opening scene is one of my favorite scenes.
I think it really nails what it's like to be in the military.
Yes.
Glorious day to be alive, Sergeant. My name's Staff Sergeant Hauser, and I'm here to pick up my DD-214 and become a civilian.
Okay, Staff Sergeant, I'll just need a copy of your orders.
I only have this one.
I can't give you your DD-214 without a copy of your orders.
Can I use your copier?
That copier is only for civilian use.
Well, the second you give me that DD-214, I am a civilian.
Correct.
So then I could use it.
Agreed.
So can I just use it now?
I'm afraid until you have your DD-214, you're still a member of the armed forces and thus cannot use that copier.
Okay. I just want to be super clear here. You're not giving me my DD-214, allowing me to become a civilian because I don't have an extra copy of my orders. But you're not going to let me make an extra copy of my orders because I'm not a civilian. And the fact that I've deployed 4 times and left blood, sweat, tears, and literal chunks of my own flesh in the sand of Iraq and the rocks of Afghanistan will not in any way sway you. Just this once. To break this nonsensical rule so I can leave the army with a tiny ounce of positivity after getting fucked by the green weenie for over a decade. Is that what you're telling me?
So for the listeners, he's at a Kinko's.
Yeah. Making copies.
Copy of my orders. Happy now? So I'm a civilian.
Yes.
He's going to the copy machine, making 999 copies.
So the challenge was to be able to show what it's like to be in the military, but still be interesting to civilians.
Right.
Yeah.
That was really the challenge, because you can make a movie just for veterans.
Yeah.
Or a TV show just for veterans. But if you do that, then maybe you're not attracting or interesting the civilian audience. So that was the biggest challenge, is to show what the military life was like, but still make it interesting to civilians so that they can kind of understand what veterans go through.
Yeah. And I feel like it's hard to show like the intricacies of like the fuck games of the military,
Which
without just purely shit talking the military. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it's so much.
Yeah,
right? So if you made it true, it wouldn't be funny. It would be like, oh, there's a serious issue here that we should probably look at, you know?
Well,
When you guys do this, you know, Scott and I went to the premiere, so we got to see, you know, some of the episodes. It's out now, so you guys, listeners, can go watch it.
Amazon and Google Play and iTunes, you can get the show there.
Yep. 6 episodes. They're good.
You guys took all the fuck games, but you added in a shitload of comedy and a
Right.
storyline.
Yeah.
With some awesome characters.
Well, you know, because the military does a great job of preparing you to be in the military. And then when you're through, it's like, see ya.
Yeah.
There's no preparation. There's really no, okay, for 3 weeks, you've been in the military for 10 years now. For 3 weeks, we're going to give you 3 weeks of classes of how to integrate back into the civilian world. That doesn't occur. That doesn't happen. So you're kind of, you know, you're on your own.
Yeah. And even though the military teaches those classes, they don't know how to teach those classes.
Right.
Because they're taught by people that are in the military.
No, exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Who aren't civilians. And and it's funny because you pick on wokeness a little bit in the show,
But not in a mean way.
not in a mean way.
Because the truth is, you know, it's not us against them. You know, it's not, okay,
Right.
I'm a veteran and now I'm against everybody that's a civilian because they don't get it. And there's a really important message in the show where Nick Palmachano, who plays the Legion commander in California, and he was Joe's former colonel, his former commander. He's like, Joe, you can't expect them to fit into your idea of what the world should be.
Right.
You need to fit into their world. And even though we do make fun of some wokeness, it's in a good way, and it's not in a demeaning way.
Right. Right. You also make fun of the airsoft guy, right? Which was brilliant because John and I, back when we owned the gun store, we knew a lot of civilians who would get all militaried out, right?
All the gear.
And the one thing that we'd always laugh at is how they would wear the uniform but then put the collar up And when I
So
saw it,
they button it all the way.
yeah, and when I saw it in the show, I'm like, oh, I can relate to this. Like, yeah,
So that was the challenge. The challenge
Yeah.
was make it appealing to vets,
right,
but make it appealing to civilians too, so they can see it's not us against them.
yeah,
Yeah.
So they can see, okay, this is why veterans are kind of weird, because this is what they've been through and this is what they've gone through and this is what their frame of mind is. And,
Yeah.
and you know, the guy that plays Joe, how would you say he does?
very well.
And he isn't even military.
He's not a
It
vet.
is awesome.
It-
Like he's a great actor
Yeah.
because he nails it.
But he hung out with, you know, he works for Diesel Jack Media, so he'd been with Nick and I for a couple of years. All the veterans we had on the show, you know, Tim Kennedy, Jack Mandeville, and
Well, all of the veterans you had on the show don't necessarily play veterans. They play.
they play other characters, you know.
Yeah.
Who would have thought that Tim Kennedy would be in a fat suit?
right.
I mean, but that was Tim's thing. Tim wanted to make fun of himself. And in the show, he talks about his character doesn't like Tim Kennedy.
Yeah.
So that's even hilarious because he brings up things that people point out about Tim Kennedy that they don't like. And he doesn't like those things either.
Right.
You know, so that was really cool. And then showing Joe that he has to accept that he's now in the civilian world and how difficult that is. And, you know, one of the really cool things is Vincent Vargas, you know, who was in Range 15 and who was on Mayans for 4 or 5 seasons,
Yeah.
had a major role in that. He plays another Legion commander who, you know, is kind of Joe's mentor. And he's like, you know, you can't do it alone. You know, you need to find someone that will listen to you, that will mentor you, that will, you know, help you overcome the challenges you're going through. And that's the sound of freedom in the background, if you can hear that airplane.
Yep.
And, you know, the American Legion came on board to kind of support us and to help us. And so we brought the Legion into the show. And I think that works out really well. I don't know how you guys think about that.
Yeah. No, I think it's a good move on their part.
Yeah.
For sure.
I mean, we've talked not on this podcast, but we've talked in the past about like VFWs and Legions and things like that, and you know the potential pivot that they need to make to capture the young veteran audience. You know, it's like the old guard is, you know, you get the Vietnam, you know, Korea type veterans that are essentially badge protecting against the newer generations in VFWs and Legions. And they're just being crusty old fucks. And when you get a new guy with a new idea, they're like, fuck you, you know?
But
So all the new guys are like, I'm all set. But getting involved with you guys kind of opens that door up to be like, look, they're not all old crusty fucks.
Yeah.
Nick and I have probably visited in the past 6 to 8 months 100 Legion posts.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say there's still those guys out there, you
Right.
know, that you're talking about, John. But I'm going to say 80 to 90% of the people that we interview, they want the young veterans. They want the global war on terror veteran.
Well, they want them, but they also need them.
They know that, they know that they are the new guard.
Yeah.
That they're getting old and they're not capable of, you know, doing it anymore. And they want them to come on board and they want them to take leadership roles in the Legion. And so it was interesting to be able to bring that reality into this show.
Yeah.
And show people that, you know, okay, it's easy to believe a stereotype.
Yeah.
Right.
But if you don't go yourself and see if the stereotype's true, you're never going to know.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah. And you're talking about a lot about the lessons it learned. Now, when I was watching the show, it's a comedy. Now, those lessons are there. They're there. They're a little more subtle than
They're very subtle.
and you're pointing them out, but they're very clear. They're there in the show.
But you're showing both sides. You're showing
Yeah.
Joe saying, why do I want to go to the Legion and hang around with a bunch of old guys that just want to talk about their war?
Right.
Yeah.
And the colonel's like, you know, well, maybe that's how it used to be, Joe, but you're not going to know what the truth is unless you go out there and see for yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what was one of your favorite parts of the show?
Well, you interrogated a guy, and I thought that was that was a pretty good scene.
Yeah.
And let me think though. There's I liked a lot of the little things that are just in the background is what caught my attention. Like
I like when Joe would recap about, like, when he'd have his like little moments where he's talking directly to the camera,
Right.
about the situation
Right.
that he's either in or just happened. I liked those because he's just like, well,
Yeah.
And that was a way of saying, hey, this is what it was like for me.
Mhm.
You know, the reason I'm the way I am, the
Yeah.
reason that I'm always 15 minutes early, and the reason I'm not, you know, that's because if you're 15 minutes early, you're on time. And if you're on time, you're late in the
Yeah.
military, you know? So just like you said, Scott, those little things.
Well, you know, and another good part when you introduced the Blue Falcon to the civilian world, right? Like the caca, you know, like I think every corporate office should embrace the
Yeah.
caca.
And at the beginning, they thought Joe was a weirdo,
Yeah.
but then they got it.
Right.
Yep.
They got it that, okay, Joe's doing this because this guy is fucking over one of our own people.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And, you know, then they embraced it, and, you know, and in spite of himself, he realized that because, you know, as veterans, we're all looking for a new tribe. We're all looking for a new purpose. For however many years we're in the military, we had a purpose every day. Every day we knew what we were going to do. And then you get out and it's like, what the fuck am I going to do?
Yeah.
How am I going to relate to these people that I have nothing in common with? And I think Joe learned as he went along, well, everyone has their own worries and concerns and inadequacies and, you know, things that they're worried about, whether you were in the military or you're a civilian.
Yeah. You know, and I can relate to Joe in one aspect. I also bang the HR lady. So
Is that hypothetically or is that for real?
no, Michelle's our HR lady.
Okay.
My wife.
So, you know, that I think it's a great show. You know, I told you guys both earlier, I can't even begin to give a responsible assessment now because I'm too close to it. I've seen
Yeah.
every episode 1,000 freaking times
Right.
as we edit it and everything. But I think it tells a good story. I think any veteran and any civilian that watches the show, I don't think anybody's going to get their feelings hurt because it shows that we're not, we want to accept everybody, really.
Yeah. I think you know, and for civilians, I don't know how many, for civilians, the military is probably more accepting of people that are different.
Everybody's
than,
green.
than any.
So it doesn't matter what their
Yeah.
background, their
Yeah.
anything. Like,
Yeah.
we're all green. We all suck in the same bullshit. You know,
Yeah.
like
Same insecurities,
Yeah.
same concerns, same worries. And, you know, so, I mean, we do push the boundaries. I mean, episode 6, the Christmas party, just before the Christmas party, something pretty crazy happens, you know, good guy with a gun saves the day. But we treated it in a way that it wasn't horrifying.
Right. Right.
You know, the people in the office, you know, that Joe comes to the rescue of, they are shocked and it's going to affect them forever. But they realize, you know, that if it hadn't been for Joe, it would have been a much different situation.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. No, it's a good show. And I think you said it was on Amazon
Amazon,
and it's like 15
Google
bucks.
Drive
or something, I
and
think.
iTunes. I think the whole series is like $17.
Yeah.
maybe.
Totally worth it.
So, you know, each episode is 30 to 40 minutes long. Each episode has kind of a different theme per episode, you know. And, you know, at the very end, Joe's like, you know, it's not that much different than being in the military.
Yeah.
You know, everyone has the same worries, the same concerns. There's the same BS going on in the office. There's that guy that's the Blue Falcon. There's, you know, the boss that's played by Susie Palmachano,
Right.
Karen, who does a great job of being a boss that really cares about all of her employees, but doesn't really maybe have a concept of everything that's going on.
Right.
And, you know,
She pulls off the British accent. Amazing.
Well, that's good because
Did-
she's British.
Did
Yeah.
Susie ever take any like
No,
acting
No.
anything?
no.
Because this is her first role.
This
doing
is
anything
this
on
is
camera,
Susie's
right?
first role, and you know it's interesting how she got the role. We hadn't cast Karen yet. We hadn't cast the owner yet.
Right.
And during our table read, we had her read, and about halfway through, you know, Nick, Dan, and I, Dan who plays, you know, Joe, we're looking at each other like, she's Karen. You know, I mean, and she did a fantastic job, you know, in the show. She became the second most important person, and that was never planned. You know, that was
Right.
never, we never expected that, you know. And it's just, it's full of unsuspecting things that make you laugh. You know, my character, Kevin Alexander, you know, we don't really know who he is. We don't really know we just know that he's strange. You know, he hardly ever says anything, but when he does, it's some really obscure thing like, well, you know, the Shoguns had the ninjas and the Italians had consiglieres, you know, and it all makes sense, but you're like, who is this guy?
Yeah.
Where's he coming from? And then there's a great reveal in episode 5 and which cements his and Joe's relationship, you know, where they find out that they have a lot more in common than they thought. And, you know, the fact that Joe, the colonel's always giving Joe advice. The retired colonel's always the Legion commander in California. Joe's always misinterpreting it. You know, he's always, the colonel say, okay, Joe, do what you do best. And the next thing you know, he's banging the HR rep, you know, and the colonel's like, shit. You know,
Well, in Joe's mind, he's not wrong.
Right.
No. Joe's doing exactly what he thought the colonel meant, but you know, and then there's a scene where, you know, Joe comes to the aid of the folks at Gasoline Dog Media, all of his coworkers, because they're being bullied by a rival printing company. And, you know, he's so excited because he gets into a fight with them and he beats up all of the people from the other company. And he's out, you know, he calls the colonel because he's so excited. Sir, you know, I'm getting accepted. And you know, Mary Daig, who we all love.
Yep.
Double amputee.
WMPT. She was a
EOD bomb.
EOD bomb tech, you know. He's like, I knocked out the leader of the gang and I beat up the rest of the gang. And, you know,
He says, this double amputee stepped up to me, so I knocked her out. You know?
and the colonel's like, Joe, you know, don't get seduced by the easy path. He goes, what was it sounds easy about that? And he's like, well, let me see, Joe. You knocked out a double amputee.
And a child.
And a child. You're sleeping with the HR rep. And Joe still's like, he's so excited he just blows the colonel off. You know, he's like, because he's being accepted.
Right.
Because that's what he wants, you know, is he wants to be accepted like
I mean, you know, if for a team building exercise, a bar fight is probably an excellent choice.
I mean, it worked in the military.
Yeah.
You get a new guy, you got to see what he's worth. You go out that weekend. If he handles himself, then hey, this guy's good. If not, then we got some work to do.
And Joe leads an L-shaped ambush,
Right.
Yep.
with squirt guns and paint guns, you know, against the rival company. So,
Yeah.
there's a little bit for everybody.
Yeah.
And what I hope that
Well, then you got JT and you got
that's right.
mandatory
Fun day playing typical recruiters, right?
Army recruiters.
And they play those roles really well.
really well.
I mean, they do. They kill it. And, you know,
Yeah.
Austin had a mandatory fun day, had never acted before.
He was good.
And they had these big scenes, these 4-page scenes with him and Jared. So naturally, you know, I'm super concerned because we shot this whole show, all 6 episodes in 19 days.
Nice.
So there's no room really, you know, for people that weren't prepared. And Austin Mandatory Fun Day showed up and he killed it. He and Jared's chemistry, yeah, I think you guys will agree, is just unbelievable.
I mean, they're kind of one and the same, and you put them in the same room.
And they're kind of opposites. Like,
yeah, but they feed off each other.
Yeah, for
you
sure.
know,
Yeah.
that's what I mean by that.
And he was
They're nothing alike.
Yeah, they're nothing like it. But, you know, it's the total stuff that in the military that we have a 40-minute conversation about
Nothing.
that means absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
But it is life or death.
No, it is. I mean, yeah. Do you want to fight a tiger or do you want to fight a bear? I mean, yeah.
You just described other podcasts.
For us, it was an ostrich or kangaroo. That was our big debate.
or a ninja or a pirate.
Right.
No, which one do you want
Which
to
one
be?
do you want to be?
No, exactly.
Yeah.
And, you know, so, you know, we're excited. You know, it's been out for about a week and a half now. We're getting lots of great responses. And the response, you know, you guys came to the premiere in Austin. So would you say it was maybe 60-40 vet civilians, 70-30 vet civilians?
At the premiere?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably
no.
70-30, if I had to guess.
But
everyone I talked to was like old school drinking bros people.
Yeah, that's
right.
You know, and they're all, you know, prior. And
Yeah.
then, you know, half of the cast that was there, or the majority of the cast that was there, at least that I knew,
Yeah.
But there were a handful of civilians that were there too.
I got to
Percentage wise, I'm not really sure. What do you, Justin? You probably know more better than
That's
we do.
probably true.
I got to do a lot of the posts, like after everybody watched it and talked to him. There was, as far as the people that came and got to give the testimonials and stuff, as far as those people, I would say it was 70-30, 70 civilian, 30 military.
Oh, wow.
And all the civilian people were like, this is awesome. Like I got, like, there was nothing that went over my head. Like it
Nice.
made sense. I got the joke. It was really cool to get that insight. Also, there were a good amount that was like, a spouse was military,
Okay.
other spouse was
Yeah.
civilian. And they were like, I've heard stories like this from my spouse. So it's kind of cool, like seeing it in real
Visualize
life, or not like, but like on the screen and
Yeah.
everything. And they could get like a visual representation as opposed to just the story. So that was
Because it's
really cool.
hard. Like I said, it's hard to reach both audiences.
Fuck, I should have talked to way more people while I was there, I guess.
So we did a screening in Raleigh.
Yeah.
In a 400-seat theater.
Okay.
It was 50-50 easily because all of our actors were from Raleigh.
Okay.
So, except for, the influencers, the vet influencers.
Right.
And I got to say, and you guys tell me what you think, every actor did a great job.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there wasn't anywhere I was like, they could have recasted that. Like everyone
No.
pretty much nailed
except
what they were
except maybe
supposed to
Bocephus.
do. I mean, but you guys were looking for somebody that's over the top.
No, we were. We totally were.
And he was over the fucking top. But like he did what you needed.
So it's interesting because, like we said, Dan wasn't a vet, but I don't think that you'd really know that
No.
if you watch the show. I don't think that he gives away that he wasn't a veteran at any time. I think he really brought it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Dan showed up every single day ready to go.
Yeah.
I mean, he knew his lines. He nailed his lines. There was one day that we showed up that okay, Dan, we're going to do this other scene. And that's the scene where he says, you guys got to get your act together. We're doing this for us, it's about us. It's about Karen,
Yeah.
and he was great. We did one take. That was it.
Nice.
I mean, I was kind of blown away. Sitting at the monitor, and Nick came over and he goes, I said, bro, he killed it. But Dan set the tempo and the expectation
Okay.
for all the other actors. He did such a great job. All the other actors knew that they had to be ready and be prepared. And they all came ready to do it.
Yeah. No, it's a good show. And if you're listening to this, you should go rent it. Go watch it, buy it.
So you guys have one season out right now.
We have one season, we did the season, we went to Netflix, we went to Hulu and all those guys, and they basically said, we don't know if you have the audience. You have all these people, because it's just like Christian films. They're huge hits.
Yeah.
They do
Yeah.
very, very well, but you don't see any of the studios.
Yeah, you don't
You
see,
don't see Netflix. You don't
Yep.
see, Hulu. You don't see them getting behind that because, number one, they just can't believe it. They can't accept that, it's not a mainstream type of project, so it can't get that much interest. So that's where we are right now. Spreading the word, trying to get as much interest in the show as possible. And so we can do a season 2. We have like 3 seasons kind of mapped out. Season 2, we have broke down even more, so we're ready to go. But it depends on, how many people go out and watch it. It depends on word of mouth,
Yeah.
You guys are kind enough to have me on today so I can talk about it. And it's great that you guys have seen it too, so you can give a direct input as to what you guys think.
And just, do you have another link, right?
Yeah. Another scene, right?
Yes, sir.
It's
This is a
interesting.
scene. Go ahead.
Oh no, it was something completely different. I thought we had a pause. Go ahead.
This is a scene between me and Joe. This is after Joe knows I'm a veteran also, but I keep it under wraps because I was accused. I got out of the military. I became a director in California. My wife was cheating on me. I was accused of killing her boyfriend, but I was acquitted 2 times.
So
Joe
loosely
and I,
based off a true story.
I can either confirm. And this is when Joe and I've kind of bonded, and I'm trying to help Joe because Joe is crazy about Ashley Marie, who's a social media girl. And, she's given him all these signals.
Is she, Is she an actor you brought in, or what's
She's
her
a local
story?
actor from North Carolina.
Okay, because I'd never seen her in the veteran space before.
No, this is her first time. And Weston Scott, who's a vet out in California, he plays this rich, famous marketing guy, and he's kind of swept her off her feet with all of his dough and all of his fancy stuff. But she definitely has an interest in Joe,
Right.
you know. And I am seeing as the aged Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Right.
I'm seeing that she's definitely interested in him, and he's totally, you know, not cluing into it. So this
Right.
is a scene where I kind of say, bro, she's definitely interested in you, and here's why.
Come here, my son. Ashley Marie just exhibited 2 of the 4 Mount Rushmores of attractions to you.
Okay, explain.
1, she walks up to you and says, "Hey, stranger." Now, many variations exist. Rachel, a la Friends, "Hey, you." Waitress, "Hey, handsome." Charlie from Top Gun, "Hey, stud."
Okay, that's good.
2, I bet you say that to all the girls. Now, this is an overt test. She's literally asking you to tell her that you don't, even if you do.
This is real wisdom.
3, you disappeared. This always happens at a bar or a party. She's literally telling you she wants you in her eye line at all times.
This is unbelievable.
4, stop it, and a light punch, usually to the shoulder. But this is really important. Adorable look on her face, a love tap, good. Scowl, frown, a real shove or push, bad.
So ludicrous.
All right, so you're telling me if all 4 of those are in place, then it's go time.
No, I'm telling you, 9 times out of 10, if 1 is in place, it is. All 4, the only thing stopping you is the Holy Ghost if you're Catholic, or love of dudes.
You literally just blew my mind right now.
I know.
So this is just so ludicrous, you know. It's like, okay, the ridiculousness of it, but you know, this is shit that guys say to each other, you know. It's like,
Especially military guys.
Yeah. That's
So-
the kind of shit I talk to my boys about.
no, exactly. So, you know, but as you can see, Joe's totally clueless because Joe's been in the military for 10 years. He has no idea how to interact, you know, with a woman. And not that these are things that women, you know, not that there's any truth to this, but, you know, in our world, in our view, our perception,
Right.
this is 100% the
Wait,
gospel, you know.
Hold on. You try to tell me that there's no truth to that?
You know,
I think
I don't have a degree in psychology.
there has to be some double-blind studies that confirm that.
But, you know, this is the kind of stuff that goes on through the show. And it's funny, but there's a little bit of truth in it. But it's like, you know, we're all trying to find our way. You know, we're all trying to be accepted, be loved, find a new mission, find a new tribe.
Mhm. What I was going to bring up earlier before the clip, what was the motivating factors behind naming the characters? Is there any?
Yeah, you know,
Karen, that's
Karen,
the obvious
obviously.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
you got Karen and Joe.
And
right?
Joe, you know,
Yeah.
'Cause he's Joe,
he's
the Army guy.
Yeah, G.I. Joe.
G.I. Joe. That's where, you know, Office Joe. Ashley Marie, you know, we wanted a name that was very bubbly and very, you know, outgoing because she's the social media person.
Right.
And Ashley Gutermuth, you know, I think she played herself, I think.
Jack Mandeville.
Jack Mandeville
is
as Dick Richards. I mean, you know, and so we tried to make some names as ludicrous as possible. And, but there's also always a little bit of hidden meaning in most of them, you know, and it's just to, you know, Carter, just a basic guy, you know, who is 8th generation, almost veteran. Cause you know, we tried to make it so everyone could relate to it.
Yeah.
We all know those guys that want to be in the military, you know, but never would make it in the military.
Oh, and that was so funny the way you portray. Like, I'm 3rd generation, almost joined.
Yeah. And like,
That
you
kind
know,
of shit's
if a
great.
drill sergeant, you know,
Yeah.
got in my face, I'd punch you. I'd see red, and you know, no, you wouldn't. But You've heard that said
Yeah.
by people 100%. And as soon as they discover that Joe's a veteran, Carter's like, oh, I have a buddy that was in the military named Steve. Do you know him?
Right.
We've all heard that
Yeah.
1,000 times.
Yeah.
Have you ever killed anyone? Have you ever jumped out of an airplane? Have you ever thrown a grenade? Have you ever jumped out of an airplane and thrown a grenade
And killed someone.
and killed? It's just because people don't know how to relate to you if you were in the military.
Yeah.
So we played upon that a little bit, and the thing about Ashley Marie and Joe's relationship is she likes Joe, but Joe is an unknown. She hadn't figured him out yet. And yet here's this other guy who's courting her, who's rich, who does
Right.
all these things, who portrays himself as, the perfect guy, the nice guy, but he's probably a serial killer.
No, the way you guys play it up is he works too much, which is, I mean, most women want a successful guy, but then they don't want him to be gone and working all the
Yeah.
time. So it's like,
That's right. No.
because I say all the time, there's always somebody in your life that's not going to be happy,
There has to be.
right? Either your boss is pissed off because you're not working enough, or your wife's pissed off because you're working too much,
Yeah.
or
If they're both happy.
yeah. If everybody's happy, you're failing somewhere.
But then if you're fighting for money because you're not working
Right.
enough, that becomes a huge issue. So do you can speak to this more directly, but is it better to have your wife pissed off because you're working too much or because she's worried that you're not going to be able to pay the mortgage?
or because you're broke. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so
There's a fine line.
I think what we were trying to do is trying to portray life as life really is.
Mhm.
And I think that we did a good job of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think you guys nailed it with that one.
Yeah. It's a good show. Yeah. If you're a listener, you should go check it out
Mhm.
for sure.
What's next up on the agenda for you?
We've been doing a lot of work with American Legion.
Yeah.
We've, like I said, Nick and I have been traveling and interviewing American Legion members all over the U.S. We went to Alaska and literally drove 6,000 miles in 8 days.
Wow.
We drove to 20 American Legion posts in Alaska.
So were you guys just doing like an American Legion tour?
Well, yeah, we were. And then we also went to South Dakota. And before we went to Alaska, and their district commander,
So
Courtney, literally we followed her all over South Dakota.
So what was the end goal behind why you guys went to all these posts?
To show veterans that the American Legion wants them. To show global war on terror veterans that the American Legion wants them
So
to become members.
did you guys air any of that?
Yeah, we have commercials. We have a ton of commercials
For the Legion commercials?
Legion
commercials. Okay.
on Facebook,
Okay.
on YouTube. We have one commercial where two veterans are talking. One is an American Legion vice commander from Post 6 in Chapel Hill, and the other is a former 82nd Airborne guy. And he's like, I'm thinking about joining the Legion, but I don't want to wear the costume. And the guy's like, first off, it's not a costume. You know that. It's a uniform. And the guy's like, and secondly, you don't have to wear it if you don't want to.
Yeah.
Our goal is to destroy all these stereotypes, destroy all these preconceived ideas of who the Legion is.
I think from my point of view, one of the best things that the Legion does, and even the VFW, right, is they do funeral details.
Right.
Right.
Mhm.
But what hurts my heart is when there's 85, 90-year-old dudes doing a funeral detail when there should be 35 or 40-year-olds doing it.
That's 100% true because
You know.
I have traveled to 2 or 3 Legion posts in North Carolina doing funeral services.
Right.
They're all over 50.
Yeah.
They're all over 60.
I mean, pretty soon the war on terrorism, guys, we're going to be over fucking 50.
Right?
You know what I mean?
Right?
Easy,
So
you.
the thing is, and the thing that we're trying to show is, hey, the Legion wants you and the Legion needs you, and you're welcome with open arms.
Yeah.
And we all know about the stereotypes, and we all know about the preconceived notions that this is how it is, because for a while, if you were in the military this is not 100% accurate, but like from 82 to 87, you couldn't join the American Legion.
Really?
Yeah, because there wasn't a war going on.
There was no conflict.
There was no combat going on. But what people don't know is that was established by Congress. It wasn't the Legion that said, you can't be a member of the Legion because of blah, blah, blah. It was Congress.
Oh.
And Congress eventually changed that. I don't know this is true. I have an inkling of this, but Trump signed some law or something saying that it ran continuously.
From my understanding, if you were in the military at all, you can join the Legion.
That's correct. That's how it is now.
And the VFW is a veteran of a foreign war.
That's correct.
Right.
Yeah.
But the Legion or Congress passed a law or a bill that got rid of that dead space.
Okay.
Because there were some people that were turned away. They wanted to be members, but they couldn't because the rule from Congress was, well, you were in that dead space. That's no longer true.
Wow. I didn't even know that was a
Wait,
thing.
So you guys are trying to say that the Legion and the VFW are behind 9/11 to generate new veterans of foreign wars so they can get more members?
I don't think I'm trying to say that. Nick, if you're listening, I did not say that at all.
As funny as it was.
I mean,
As funny as it was.
everybody put your tinfoil hats on because this could be a thing.
Prank caller.
That was definitely the VFW.
Yeah,
because the Legion, you just have to be in. You don't
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Congress hooked up the Legion. The VFW is like, what about us? Oh, you don't want to help us? I got you.
So, so that's a big thing. The Legion is really becoming proactive. They're sponsoring or a co-sponsor of the Army Navy game this year.
Nice.
So you were asking what else we were doing.
Yeah.
So Nick and I shot a commercial about 2 weeks ago
Oh, he showed me. It's funny.
where I got two football teams. I put the two football teams.
When can that air?
It's going to air during the
Okay, so
Army Navy
we
game.
can't air it. No.
We cannot show it. But as much as I want to,
Yeah.
it's going to air between the Army Navy game.
It's a good commercial.
And the Legion has got a new program called Be the One, where anybody can reach out to somebody that they think's in trouble.
Okay.
Because I was talking to you today, how guys like you and me and John, no one ever comes to us and says, "How are you guys doing?"
Yeah.
No one ever says that. No one ever, because
Luckily.
because we seem like
Right.
we're 100% good,
Yeah.
but it doesn't hurt to have someone that that cares about you to come to you and say, Scott, are you doing okay?
Right.
And you don't have to be a psychologist or a psychiatrist to do that. And sometimes that's all it takes to get someone to say, you know what, I'm not doing okay.
Yeah.
Right.
And I need some help.
Yeah.
And so that's what they're trying to do now, is they're trying to make all of us responsible for each other and look out for each other. And I think that's a great thing.
It is.
It is.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's stuff that we push locally and, in collective friend groups and whatnot too.
But we all know.
I kind of think that's why and how the Freedom Friends, our other podcast, started was because us dipshits wanted to take care of each other. And then we're like, oh, maybe we can help other people.
Maybe there's more people that feel this way.
Yeah. So.
And then we started and we're like, oh shit, there's a lot that feel this way.
Because it's beat into our head. It's not okay to be suffering.
Right.
It's not okay to tell somebody you're suffering. I mean,
Yeah. Like pity's a bad thing.
Yeah.
You shouldn't.
Well, and it's not even a military thing. It's an American culture thing.
Well, it's a fucking man thing.
No,
But
it starts with you walk into Walmart and you go up to go check out, and the lady behind the counter, she's like, "Hey, how are you?" Your response is good. Doesn't matter. It's not a genuine question.
Right.
You go to Europe and you ask somebody, "Hey, how you doing?" That 10 minutes later, you're like, "Fuck, I was just saying hi, man."
right?
But it's a they feel
right
and their custom.
For you're saying for us, it's a greeting.
It's immaterial. So that how are you doing? It's just you have a standard answer in your brain. You don't even give a second thought to the question. You move on to whatever's next.
Yeah.
And we have to change that.
Exactly.
We have to change that. So it's okay to not be okay.
Yeah.
It's okay to say, dude, I need some help.
Yeah.
I mean, when was the last time someone came up to you and said, dude, I need some help?
So I tried it with the VA. It took me 10 months.
Well, honestly though, we're fortunate because of the podcast we do,
right,
that we do have people reach out to us.
That's great.
We've had people come down and hang out for a week on the show.
That's awesome.
That just needed to get away from everything, and it's a good thing. We're happy to do it.
And you do a lot of events, hog hunting and fishing.
Yeah, we do a lot of stuff with
and
nonprofits.
so you are in an environment that makes it better
Yeah.
easier to say.
And it's for 50-50, half of it's selfish reasons, because it helps me to be that person that's like, hey man, how are you? What do you need help with? How can we make your life better? Because it gives me a mission. It gives me something to do, which in turn helps me. You know what I mean? So like, yes, it is the main reason that we get involved with the nonprofits that we get involved with is to help veterans, to help guys that are going through some shit.
Yeah. I mean, here's some advice. The best way to help yourself is help others.
Yeah.
It honestly is.
Well, help somebody.
It 100% is, right?
Then reflect on what you did on your own.
If we
like, God damn.
If we want to call that selfish, we're going to call it selfish. But that's honestly
because we served for a reason.
Yeah.
And that service doesn't that need to serve. I don't think
you can't age out of it.
No,
right?
you can't.
You can't age out of
being
that.
part of something bigger than yourself is a lifelong goal. It doesn't. And once you remove yourself from something that's bigger than yourself, you automatically search for something else.
Yeah.
Right.
It's in the nature of the people that have that as their mindset, you know?
We have a company that Dieseljack Media does work with called the Independence Fund.
Yeah. Great fun. Yeah.
The Independence Fund, the founder, her husband was in the 82nd Airborne.
Mm-hmm.
He was catastrophically wounded. They kept going to all these funerals. And at one of the funerals, she heard one of the soldiers say, well, I guess we'll see you at the next one. And that just broke her heart.
Yeah.
She's like, what can she do? So they came up with this program called Operation Resiliency, where they find units that have, because most people don't understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, you come back from a deployment and everybody goes to the wind.
Yeah.
It's not like you hang out with each other for a month or so you can talk about what happened and decompress.
Sometimes, but yeah.
So we were fortunate. We started this, I think. Like we were probably one of the first, right?
Yeah. Well, so our unit deployed for the initial invasion of Iraq 03-04. When we got back at Fort Campbell alone, and that's what we're talking about specifically, we were the first unit to get back post deployment.
Really?
So they didn't have there was no infrastructure set up for us.
Well, I mean, we were one of the first to ever reunion.
Yeah, and I was leading on to that. Yeah. And so like when we got back, it was like we did it. They did like a ceremony thing in a hangar, and then like, okay, go turn weapons in, drop your equipment. We'll see you Monday. So they released us for 4 days, no briefing, no anything,
and people got in trouble.
Half our platoon was either in jail or
we literally went from firefights one day to two days later. We were in a bar, like
with no like, hey, don't beat your wife, your kids, and don't beat other people.
There was no.
It wasn't even that.
Yeah, it wasn't. It was
just
that.
Have fun, guys. See you Monday.
See you Monday, right?
And it was a shit show.
Which we probably would not have wanted it any other way.
No.
But it's not what we fucking needed.
Exactly.
Because we were fucking fighting.
Yeah.
2 days earlier.
Yeah. They literally we got done with a firefight. We got back to our company area, and we're prepping like any other day, you know, cleaning all your shit, getting ready for whatever's coming up next.
And then
I'm like, oh, hey boys, pack your shit. We're going to the airfield.
I'm going to throw this out there too. The stop loss was lifted. I think that was that one, right?
Oh yeah, no, it was.
So stop loss was lifted, and a month later, everybody you knew was fucking ETS or
because that's why I got out
or transferred.
I was in between stop losses.
So you went from firefights to a bar weekend to 1 month later, everybody's gone.
Yeah,
your whole unit's gone.
Our entire platoon just.
And then this was 2004, so there was kind of like Facebook wasn't really a thing yet. And then it was like 5 years later before I even got on Facebook. I'm like, I don't even want to talk to the guys. I don't want to look through a rifle scope. I was going through it, right?
When did
and then one of our buddies was
A Commanders 09. No. It was 2010 or 2011.
One of our buddies was getting married. He reached out to everybody in the platoon and was like, hey, I'm getting married in Vegas. And we had like a platoon reunion. And then we started doing it kind of annually. And now we've fallen off for the last 3-4 years.
We were going good for a minute, and then COVID hit, and then we started the podcast.
But I tell you what, those platoon reunions,
that's how Scott and I, why we're here today.
But I 100% believe that saved a lot of us.
So what the Independence Fund done with Project Resiliency, they have focused on these units with high suicide rates.
Yeah,
they bring them to Charlotte, Nashville,
right,
a center point. They bring these guys together, the entire unit that hasn't seen each other since the war.
That's so awesome.
And since then, I believe this to be true. Since bringing them back together, you know, and they have people there to talk to them. They go through exercises, you know, and I've been to 5 or 6 of these, and I've conducted interviews with these guys.
Yeah.
Usually on the first day. These guys, they don't want to talk about anything on the first day. But by the last day, they've reconnected with their brothers.
Yep.
They've made that connection, and they haven't had a suicide from any of the units that they've brought together for these projects.
That's so awesome.
I believe it 100% because of what we've done. Like, I know it works. I know it works.
We haven't had one from our platoon since we started doing reunions.
Yeah.
And what
previous to that, we had.
Yeah.
And what I've discovered from these events is they find out that everyone's feeling the same way that they're feeling.
Yeah.
And so they're not afraid to talk about it because they realize, because I don't want to tell John my problems because I don't want to burden John.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to maybe get John in a dark place, but they get together and they find they're all in the same place.
Yep.
And that makes it okay.
Yeah.
So mandatory fun day. He actually did a little video on his social media talking about the relationship that people gain in the military. And the way that he put it was like, we're going to go meet my best friend ever. And then the person he's talking to is just like, oh, is he a really good guy? He's like, no, he's the most horrible person you'll ever meet. And he's like, so you don't like him? No, I love him. And they're like, well, would you bring him around your wife? And he's like, fuck no. He's like, but he's the godparent to my kids.
Right.
You know? And he's like, oh, so he's a good dad? He's like, no, he's a horrible dad. But it's that relationship. But I think how that translates down the road is you go years without talking to this person. And then in the back of your mind, this little thing starts as like, oh man, maybe, I don't know, like, will we still have the same relationship? You know, and you second guess and question everything
the
until
longer it goes.
Yep.
The harder it is to pick up that fucking phone.
Exactly.
And make that
But
phone
then that
call.
second that you get face to face, you're like, oh fuck.
So one of the cool
Everything's perfect.
One of the cool things is my scout platoon reunion or my battalion reunion that we had we had like a Uday Kusei, what was it, 10-year anniversary or something?
20 year.
20, it couldn't have been 20 years.
Yeah. 2003, 2023.
Okay. So yeah.
You guys are getting old as fuck.
We are.
It's crazy.
So we had
Dude, I was in the military 30 years ago. That is just,
I've been out of the military.
I can't even comprehend that, John.
I've been out of the military longer than I was alive before I joined. That's crazy. Yeah.
So this reunion, I brought one of my boys, right? And the elevator opened. We're going to our room, and I seen one of my scout platoon guys that I hadn't seen since the war, right? And he's like, "Oh fuck, one of the best snipers ever!" Right? Gave me a hug, and my boy's standing right there, you know. And he's like, "What the fuck?" You know, like it's just shit like that, right? Like being able to bring my boys who are old enough now
to understand.
Yep.
Because they hear stories all the time, but it's us.
It's us, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's a cool thing. Reunions are great. And anybody start doing a reunion. If 5 people come the first year, the word's going to spread.
Yeah.
The next year, 10 people. The next year, 30 people. Like, start doing fucking reunions. I don't give a fuck what unit you were in. Start doing
Even if you're not in the same unit, just call the guys that you were in the military with. Like, hey, do you guys want to get together this weekend?
Yeah.
And just start there.
Yeah.
Even if it's 2 of you. Fuck it.
Yeah, I agree. It is the most remarkable thing you can do.
And that, and that's the whole point behind this Legion thing. Be the one.
Yeah.
Be the person that reaches out
and
checks in and says, how are you doing?
Yeah.
And don't just take.
Well, and that's what follows on from the reunion.
That's right.
Then you guys are reconnected. You're hitting each other up. It's
a
good thing.
So, we're hoping that, the show gets some traction. We're hoping that, people see that, next season, if it happens, it'll be a little more serious, because this is very lighthearted.
Yeah.
Next season will be lighthearted too, but we're going to, we're going to address some of the serious issues. We're going to address veteran suicide.
Yeah.
We're going to address, the problems of losing a guy, because Joe's not in it anymore. And in season 1, he had 2 of his buddies. Hey man, you remember that. Hey,
I had that happen. I got out, and one of my fucking best friends, he had gotten out before me, got back in, got deployed, and got killed like within a week or two of being back in country. You know,
And
it's like,
and who reached out to you and said, "Hey, Scott, do you need some help dealing with this?"
yeah, right.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like no one gets that. No
Yeah.
one understands that it's like that's serious shit.
Yeah.
How do you deal with that on your own, you know? How do you deal with, you know, you're out now and your buddies are still deploying and they're dying.
Yeah.
And I'm just supposed to go on and everything's supposed to be peachy keen.
Yeah. No, it's crazy. So,
Mhm.
but anyway, we've gone on long enough, but let's wrap this one up. Hollywood, thank you for being on the Warfighter podcast.
Yeah.
Well, you know, guys, I love you guys. I appreciate you guys coming to the premiere. And I hope that this show eventually will become something that will help people, you know, and reach out to those and make those that have been out there, you know, understand that you can call your old buddy up. You can reach out to someone if you're feeling bad and feeling low, because it's a brotherhood and a sisterhood. There's no reason we should be by ourselves.
That's true.
You know,
And if you're listening to this, the show is not going to help you unless you watch the damn thing. So go fucking buy the show and watch
Yeah.
it. It's $17. Watch the show.
Amazon,
It's great.
Google Play, and iTunes. Thanks
Yeah,
for having
yeah.
me on, guys.
Yeah.
Love you guys.
Love you too, brother. And for all listeners out there, jump on warfightertobacco.com. If you're watching this when it's live, because this goes out Friday, right? We should have put this at the beginning of the episode, but we have a Rockstar Black Friday special going on right now. If you're not listening to this on Friday,
You missed it.
you missed it.
You suck.
If it's over the weekend, you're great. And then if it's on a Monday, it's Cyber Monday, check out. But other than that,
One more thing I got
yeah.
to say. If you're an old fuck like me and you still have a Blu-ray or DVD player, you can get Office Joe on our website, officejoeshow.com.
Oh, there you go.
oh, that's awesome. Do you guys do 8-tracks too? VHS?
How much is it?
You are too
Hey,
fucking young
Hollywood.
to even know about 8-tracks.
Hey, I had a
bro.
car that-
Hollywood, how much does the DVD cost?
Like 17, 18 bucks.
Okay, so you can buy the DVD for $17 or $18. You can get on Amazon and buy a DVD player for $5.99.
No, you can't. I know that because I bought a Blu-ray player because I had to check all these Blu-rays to make sure they were good.
And if you, anyway,
Yep.
there it is.
There it is.
$19.99
Nice.
on Blu-ray.
I like the highlighters in the plate carrier.
Erasers in the bag
and the
holder.
dry erasers. Yeah, you know, it's like
That's awesome.
in the office now. Office Joe.
Yep. Awesome. Yeah.
All right.
So Office Joe, check it out. Warfighter Tobacco for all the smoky treat needs.
Cheers,
Other than
buddies.
that, cheers, guys. Hollywood, we appreciate you coming on.
I
And
appreciate you not letting me eat and making me drink alcohol. So I've been drunk this entire show.
that makes the show better.
So in that case, also tune in to Freedom Friends, which Hollywood will be on, and we'll film that one next.
And that one's going to be fun because he's already drunk. So we'll see you guys next week.